Games are often hamstrung by the crippling fear that if they're not easily understood by their audiences, they're not going to have mass appeal and in turn mass sales. Often that leads to experiences where excessive guidance, markers, hints, or what have you almost seem to take any and all agency out of the question. That's why at a time where we're inundated by games that seem almost intent on playing themselves, we simply cannot get enough of large sweeping experiences that aren't only open-ended, but also choose to go in the exact opposite direction and refuse to hold players' hands at almost all times. Here we're going to talk about a few such games, beginning with the most recent one. Dragon's Dogma 2. Whether it's through its lack of quest guidance, the by-design unreliability of its autosaves, its limited fast travel options, or mechanics such as Dragon's Plague, Dragon's Dogma 2 is all about creating engagement and memorable gameplay through an abundance of friction. Something like that can easily break an entire experience, but Dragon's Dogma 2 thrives with that approach. Elden Ring. Elden Ring obviously had to be on this list. From Software's design ethos has always revolved around offering players as little guidance as possible, something that has enabled some truly excellent experiences over the years. And that same philosophy enables Elden Ring to craft a spectacular open world. Funnily enough, with its generous checkpointing and fast travel system, Elden Ring actually feels more hospitable than previous From titles in some regards. But the feeling of absolute freedom to go anywhere in its massive, gorgeous, intimidating world isn't something that many other games have been able to nail in the past, or at least not nearly as well as Elden Ring did. Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is obviously not your typical open world game, to the extent that labeling it as an open world experience almost feels inaccurate, even if it isn't on paper. How it's structured has a huge hand in that. As you go through multiple repeated 22-minute loops and explore more and more of its mysterious space setting, the pieces of its narrative puzzle slowly start falling into place. And as its many fans will tell you, that's only as effective as it is because the game goes out of its way to stay out of yours. You're the master of your own destiny in Outer Wilds, and the game simply cannot be praised enough for how confidently it gives you the freedom to unravel its tantalizing mysterious however you wish. Subnautica. In Subnautica, you crash on an alien planet and find yourself in hostile underwater locations. Your only objective? Survive and find a way off-world. How you choose to do that in its oceanic setting is, well, it's left up to you. Braving the surreal yet alien depths of its underwater locations, you constantly have an abundance of choices to make, with very little restrictions placed on how and where you want to go, what you want to explore, or what you want to build. The fact that the game manages to have the balanced progression curve that it does, in spite of how hands-off it is, for the vast majority of times, probably doesn't get as much recognition as it should. Sons of the Forest. Sons of the Forest isn't a friendly game. Its setting is brutal and harsh, it's brimming with nightmare fuel of the scariest kind, and mechanically it's not afraid to piss you off with how opaque it can be from time to time. But though all of that could easily turn many people off, its harshness is exactly what makes Sons of the Forest the brilliant game that it is. Every second you spend on its cannibal-infested island is the definition of a waking nightmare. And the fact that the game makes no effort to make that experience even slightly pleasant for you only makes its terrifying offering stand out in memory that much more. Outcast. Easily one of the oldest games on this list, but a feature like this one would be incomplete without any mention of Outcast. Recognized as one of the first true open world games ever made, above all else, Outcast emphasized immersion. A lot of that came through the use of diegetic elements rather than the over-reliance on UI that modern open world titles have become known for, which, paired with the game's focus on player freedom and agency, made for a game that, for its time, felt truly limitless. Obviously, it had a great deal of technical issues, especially if you play it today, even if you're playing the remaster, but from a design perspective, it was very much ahead of its time. Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus isn't a fully open world game, instead letting players explore a series of larger semi-open maps, but it uses its openness to great effect, because never does it feel like it's inundating you with pointless filler content, or offering excessive guidance in what to do, or how to do the things that you're doing. That was, of course, the case with its predecessors as well, but Metro Exodus takes those elements and cranks them up to 11. Conserving ammo, dealing with the dangers of a post-nuclear wasteland, finding your way around environments, and heck, even using a map, almost nothing in this game feels gamified, for the lack of a better word. Kenshi. Kenshi is definitely a flawed game, especially from a technical perspective, but if you're aching for an open-world RPG sandbox that lets you have whatever kind of adventure you want, it's well worth a look. The level of systemic and mechanical depth on offer here is almost staggering, to the extent that it can be a bit much in the early hours, but once you get to grips with it, it's hard not to be taken aback by the agency that you as a player are constantly afforded in Kenshi. Ark Survival Evolved. Like a few other survival games, some of which are on this list, Ark Survival Evolved prides itself on being almost entirely devoid of handholding, to the extent that it can be almost intimidating to completely new players jumping in for the first time. Its large, unforgiving open world is brimming with a variety of different challenges, and figuring out not only how to get past them, but even learning what those challenges are is left entirely to you and your ability to explore, discover things, and improve at the game. Valheim. Yep, another survival game. This is a genre that lends itself incredibly well to the no hand-holding philosophy. Valheim is admittedly a little bit more welcoming than a lot of the other games we've spoken about on this feature, but even so, when you first jump in, the game tells you awfully little about how to move things forward. Thankfully, everything from combat to exploration to gathering resources to building your bases is a hell of a lot of fun in Valheim, so even when the game's being a bit opaque about what it wants you to do, it's still a hell of a lot of fun. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.